Thank you for joining us on The Conversation Continues. Dylan McGinnis is City Hall reporter for the San Antonio Express News. Joy Palacio also covers city government for Texas Public Radio. Joey, obviously the city has had a mandatory sick leave law that was passed last summer, kicked in February, but that law is being challenged in the courts and also severely challenged in the legislature. But now the city is trying to come up with a plan of action to deal with that. Kind of fill us in on where we stand on that.
Right, and Dylan and I were both covering this yesterday. So the paid sick leave ordinance was initiated by like 140,000 signatures that were submitted to the council. The city verified 70,000 of them. The city had a choice: do we put it on the ballot for November, or do we just vote it in? So the city council decided in August to vote it in, and it started taking effect this year. And enforcement, I believe, is actually going to start in August. So the city kind of expected that, this was going to be challenged at some point. And we're seeing that, as you mentioned, in the legislature. There are at least two bills right now. One is Senate Bill 15 that's already come out of the State Affairs Committee in the Senate and could be taken up by the Senate at any day now. There's also there's a House bill, HB 222, that's kind of a companion bill to that. It hasn't gone through committee yet, so it's still there, kind of waiting. And then you also have a lawsuit filed against a similar ordinance in Austin that the Third Court of Appeals in Austin said that ordinance violated the state constitution. And it's unclear right now, when or if the Texas Supreme Court will take it up. And that's kind of what the city is waiting on right now. When I say city, I mean city of San Antonio. So back in November, Mayor Nirenberg created this ad hoc committee of 5 council members, specifically Pelaez, Saldana, Gonzalez, Villagran, and Sandoval, to create a commission of citizens to figure out the best way to implement paid sick leave. And the ordinance has certain requirements. It's, I believe, and Dylan, please correct me if I'm wrong on this. It's at least 64 hours of paid sick time that you can earn per year if you work for a large company, and you earn 1 hour for every 30 hours. And then it's, I believe it's a little less for companies that only have 15 employees or less, and many businesses here in San Antonio seem to be against it. So the city has put in, rather this council committee has chosen at least 9 people so far that will oversee and kind of figure out the best way to do this.
And Dylan, there seems like there's a real effort being made by the committee to get input from businesses, which was not part of the original ordinance, which came from a position drive by labor groups.
Yeah, there definitely, it seems like that commission that they appointed was, somewhat split between labor and business. But Councilman Pelaez was pretty clear that he doesn't intend to relitigate the whole paid sick leave debate. So it seems like this is really just I think everyone in San Antonio and Texas expects the legislature to make this a moot point. They're very likely gonna pass that law and strike down these ordinances. And this is kind of well, if that does, in the unlikely event that doesn't happen, what do we do and where do we go from here? So it should be interesting if that doesn't happen, how they figure out kind of charting that path forward.
And if it does happen, it seems like they're laying the groundwork for maybe some sort of voluntary agreement with the small businesses who I know don't have anything against sick leave. They're just concerned about the onerous enforcement nature of the city law.
Yeah, I think Councilman Gonzalez mentioned that as well, that some people who would have had no problem providing the sick leave, some businesses that wouldn't have had an issue with it just didn't even know it was a passed ordinance. So they're definitely looking at those companies as well, and some of the other kind of unique situations, like I think Councilman Pelaez mentioned a truck driver who comes through San Antonio. Does he, qualify as a San Antonio worker who has to get sick leave while he's sitting in traffic? So there's a lot of interesting issues there. If it doesn't, in the unlikely event it doesn't get struck down, it should be interesting to watch.
Dylan McGinnis is the City Hall reporter for the Express News. Joy Palacios, Texas Public Radio. Thank you both for joining us for The Conversation Continues.
Thanks, Dave.